That city meeting.
Yeah. I should, but I can't do the stuff I used to do. I just can't be out.
Nope, I understand that. Saw a guy today, I didn't see him in a long time.
Yeah.
He said, I'm down to 100. I said, where's your motorcycle? I can't ride it anymore. He said, I got cancer. I'm down to 128 pounds.
Oh, wow.
So yesterday, the trail, she had decided. Yes, yes. There was a bike shop where, over where Margie celebration.
He lives like right there.
That's her, but maybe I'm wrong.
Galloway.
Oh, okay.
Mickey Craig. He lives right around here. Mickey Craig lives right about right there.
Okay, okay.
Kind of have its seasons covered.
This is order now. I can't do anything until I get there early. Oh, yeah. It's not fun, but maybe I ask.
Are you alright?
I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good with stuff. Okay.
I'm not sure where Adam is, but
Yeah. First thing with him.
a quorum is present.
Okay, so it is, oh, he's here, okay. He's late. Hi, Adam, how are you?
You found us.
Right here. Okay, so it is now 5:02, I call the meeting to order. And, this is our June meeting of the library board of trustees. Roll call, we have, all trustees.
You send this to me when you get done, because I want to see what the township contracts talk is about.
Including new member Adam. And, we'll move on to the approval of the agenda. Should we take a look at your agenda? Is there any, any comment or, motion for, approval of this?
I have nothing to add. The agenda's here. I'll move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second. And all in favor of approval of the agenda?
Aye.
Do you approve agenda? Yes. Aye.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to approval of minutes from May 8th. Those are all for review, if anyone has anything
That's
to
good, yeah.
Minutes and- oh, no, forget it. They're right.
Brought my coat.
Yeah, I've been over these before.
Yes. We just motion to approve the agenda?
Yes, we did.
We did, who?
By you.
I motioned and Laura seconded.
Okay. I'll move to approve the minutes as presented. Can I have a second?
Yes.
All right, all in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that brings us to, visitor comments. Each member of the public may speak once for up to 3 minutes. And this is specifically, about agenda items for today. And we have a second visitor comment section, after we discuss business, which is just general. So if you'd rather hold your comments until then, it's up to you. So visitor comments, are now open.
I'd like to speak. I want to thank you guys for putting out the minutes. I knew that took a lot of meetings for me to come here to get that done, but I appreciate that. Comment right now I'm gonna make, because I wish you'd speak up, because I could hardly hear you.
Really?
And I didn't actually hear you even call the meeting to order, but whatever. The other question I'm gonna ask, and I did talk to the director, is I would like to see the formula for how you charge the townships for the contracts. It doesn't seem to be one out there where anybody can find it. And I'm from Hillsdale Township, we pay $8,800 a year, which I think is way over exaggerated for the amount of, I know it's based on the population and this and that, I understand all that, but no more people than we have getting library cards and using the library. Plus, we give you all, we sign over all of our municipality fines come to you too in that contract, which I don't necessarily agree on that either. I know you do get that, but I'm thinking Hillsdale Township could go to Reading, could go to Jonesville, pay a lot less money. And I think $8,800 is ridiculous. So I do know Jefferson pays you $5,000, and they also pay $5,000 to Pittsford. They are 1,000 more population-wise than Hillsdale is, but it doesn't jive somewhere in there where the 5,000 adds up to a percentage of the 8,800 that we pay. I just don't think it's right, or I would like an explanation, please. Thank you.
Thanks. Any other comments?
I do. Mine is Brianna Crowell. Mine is in regards to the update on the subcommittee for the children's librarian. I just thought that like last month when I was here, that seemed to be very surprising to some of the staff members who seemed quite taken aback and had obviously an emotional reaction to that. And I'm just hoping that when you get to that part on the agenda, if you could give like full transparency of like, what are the specific needs that are being addressed now? Because everybody seems to be very happy with how Heidi is performing and everybody was giving like glowing things about her. So I'm just wondering like what is lacking with Heidi, with how positive everyone was that would cause a specific need. I know that it's been vacant for quite some time, but I also know that she seems to have stepped in. So I'm just hoping that there would be a little more transparency about that when you come to the agenda. Thank you.
Any other comments at this time? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to 6, the director's report.
All right, so first thing I want to start off with is, as I've said before, also welcome to Adam. Yep. Anyways, back to this. I know I kind of mentioned before, I have a mom who's also a librarian, so this is kind of informed just by the people that I know. I have been, unfortunately, or let me rephrase that, the libraries that order from Ingram, which is who we use, Jessica set that up, previous director, and another prominent, we don't really use them, Baker and Taylor. Distributing books has been pretty awful, it's been really slow. Yesterday I had the director from Jonesville, they use Baker and Taylor, and they have been having awful issues too. Not really.
Well, you don't know. Sorry.
What'd you say?
Do you know why?
No idea why. At one point, I think a couple of months ago, I told you guys that it was due to weather, and there definitely was there was like a significant like snowstorm, I think, that hit the area where one of our distribution centers is, so it completely made sense then. But I do feel like ever since then, like, I feel like things have been really slow, and I know that either at the last meeting or in April, I have also said that, like, I have been not cataloging as many books just because it's been slow. And that isn't necessarily just the case for the adult titles, but just thought I would bring that up first. The big things I do want to point out though, for the most part, circulation has been pretty consistent. So I didn't really bring any numbers aside from down at the bottom for the children and junior section. But essentially the one thing I wanted to highlight, which I probably also brought up last month, is that I had moved our large print section, or our new large print section, both physically and in our catalog. And I feel like, I mean, the difference between April and May is, you know, not a huge number, but I want to say was, I think, 26 or 27, which again, it's not a huge number of how many more circulations, but I do feel like what's been really beneficial, not only for the physical aspect of, also our large print section is now in a more lit area of the library, which you have to imagine if you're needing large print, more light would probably be helpful. But also because of this new physical location, I created a new location in the catalog. And so being able to see the specific circulations of not only the, like, regular large print, but new large print, I just feel like I've been able to kind of gather that it's utilized more. So it's just been very helpful, like the things that I've sort of been learning and putting into the catalog to make those more impactful choices of what kind of books we want and what we want to get for our patrons. The thing I wanted to highlight for the young adult is obviously we check out our regular books, but we also have more our audio materials. And the thing that I just wanted to point out for them this month is that this particular month, a lot of those sections of the library had circulation, which is great. You know, it's like I said, it's good to see that, you know, not just your typical book is going out. Everybody, you know, not everybody can sit down and read a book. You know, some people need to have the audio. Some people just need graphic novels because that's how they read. It's just great to see that, you know, there's things that are moving for everybody. And then for the children, the junior rooms, so like I have written down on here, they did the nonfiction and the chapter books in the junior room, it did see a little bit of a dip. I honestly have to imagine it might just be because it was the end of the school year, probably just kids enjoying nice weather, extracurriculars, all of that sort of stuff. Now, the children's material, like everything in here has been pretty consistent, which has been great. And knowing, so if you don't know, I participate in the Great Start Collaborative of Hillsdale County. And so over the last few months, they have been talking about kind of doing like a data dive of just residents, or youth residents, I guess you would say, of the county. This county struggles a lot with literacy and the levels at which they should be. So I guess I just started, after learning that from the Great Start, have been, I guess, very happy to see that, you know, we're continuing to be utilized and hoping that there's, you know, a good impact on the kids, that, you know, they're still boosting their literacy all throughout the year and all that good stuff. Moving on from that, for programming, so I'm just gonna highlight the summer reading party kickoff we had on Monday. It was great. So for our beginning of it, we had a magic show. We've never really done anything like this, as I understand, or it's been a while since we have. So we did take an actual head count for that program. We had 94 total people in there, which is awesome. And then afterwards, we had our party, which was great too. We had a lot of fun. We had face painters come from the beauty college that normally tends to be pretty popular with the kids. And then just a few other little activities and sign-ups for the program. George came for a little bit. We didn't have much for him to do, but he sat for us and held down a table.
It was just nice to be
Yeah.
here.
So yeah, I want to say, but after the fact, we had over 200 signups for our summer reading program between kids and adults. So that's great, and they can still sign up, so I know that number will go up, and I will probably update that number again at our next board meeting for, you know, the month of June. And then the other thing that I wanted to bring up about programming, which I don't think I even mentioned these over the last 2 months, but we have had a couple of authors, local authors to the area, come and do presentations on their books and also sell them after the fact. And when I've spoken with Heidi about it, I mean, in comparison to when we had author visits in the past, I don't think they were really well attended, but not only were they well attended, but I know for sure 2 of the authors sold a great amount of books. So I mean, it was kind of good for everybody involved, and yeah, it's great. I love how many local authors and just people, like, we have a great local author and self-published selection here, so it's kind of cool to have that in here, around here. And then I don't necessarily feel like I need to point out any of these miscellaneous stats. We were closed for Memorial Day weekend, or in the weekend. We did have less visitors, but I still feel like when I looked at how many people come in or sitting in our parking lot using our Wi-Fi computers, like none of those numbers really change a whole lot. So, I mean, it's good that people who are coming here are using the library, and they're not just not coming and doing anything, I guess. And I don't know how much I want to talk about any of the financial stuff on here, other than the fact that I thought some of it had came in during May, but we have been getting quite a few summer reading donations, summer reading program donations. That's just based on, at the beginning of May, I want to say, I know Heidi sends out to quite a few places around the city, and they are just generously donating to us. So it has been great to feel so loved by the community too. So yeah, the other two things that I wanted to bring up is that if you hadn't heard, we are getting our carpet replaced next week. So the city is actually this year is closing for Juneteenth, and just based on a short timeline between when we finally got when the company finally got the product in and our end of fiscal year, it is very lucky, I guess, that we already had a day that we were not going to be in the building anyways. And so the president of that company told me they're planning and hoping to get it done in the 19th and the 20th, but there's a good chance that there will be some overflow work on the 21st, which has made me feel like I wish I would have gotten some more information on that and what their particular schedule was, but they didn't give me enough information, and it made me feel a little hesitant with how far or how little in advance I wanted to tell people, hey, we're open, we're closed. So I don't love that, but I'm happy that it's getting replaced. To me, that is, yeah. The other thing is you may have also seen that we had a door get shattered during the month of May. The people who mow our lawn hit a rock, completely shattered it, and it just this morning or afternoon got replaced. So, and Jamin and I, we were speaking about it the other day. I'm hoping that that is something that the company themselves will take care of. I haven't had any sort of communication with G&G Glass who replaced it. The company who does our mowing contacted everyone for us, so I imagine we won't, but it wouldn't surprise me if we also would have to just pay it and get it reimbursed or something like that. I hope that's not the case, but yeah, just in the off chance that something like that were the case, just to let you guys know. But yeah, those were the other two things I wanted to say.
Question about carpet replacement.
Mm-hmm.
Is the company going to handle any moving around of things that needs to be done, or are they expecting you or any of the staff members to help with that?
So we are moving everything that's not attached to the walls.
Okay.
Just because I don't think this library will ever have a different setup, and when the time comes, it's not worth our time, energy, or money to move those or anything like that. So myself and some staff are going to be here on Wednesday after work to move some stuff around. Pretty much all we're going to do is move it into anything that can fit back there, which probably won't be too much, but a lot of it will probably just get pushed out to the adult area because nothing going on there. And
could you use some volunteer help moving furniture?
potentially.
Okay.
I know Heidi had said that she would stick around. I could probably get somebody else, and I don't imagine it taking too long either, because a good portion of everything is actually on wheels.
Mm-hmm.
The hardest part are these tables and the T-Rex in the other room. But aside from that, I think we'll probably be fine.
Are you moving all the books around the walls?
No.
No.
The only thing that I'm potentially going to do is I might go around and like cover the books. But what the carpet company has told me is they're basically just cutting right up to the bookshelves. And then they also have to replace the baseboard. So they're replacing that as well, and it occurred to us today that there are some places, like over there, that tall bookshelf, you can still kind of see it, so I'm not sure what the case is gonna be with that. The company color matched it, so I don't know like if it's going to be super one-to-one, so that'll be interesting. But I don't think many people are looking down there anyways and are going to, yeah. Another thing also that just occurred to me, because I'm looking at this computer, I had reached out to the IT guy, Brandon, and he said that he's planning to replace computers for us, so every year we get 4 new computers with our budget. And I don't know if he just has, other monitors, but he basically said he's coming next week, and then he has 4 more, so it sounds like we're really getting 8, which it seems like that seems to be the number every single, like, I remember saying this last year too, so I don't mind getting new and updated computers, but, yeah, that should be happening as well. That's all I have.
Okay. Thank you, Rebecca. Let's, take a look at our balance sheet. And,
That's this, yeah.
yes, if anybody has any comments or questions.
And just to help our new member out a bit, Adam, this is currently what our total financial assets are. At the top, that's what we've got in checking right now, available in checking is $91,697. Most of our money is in investments. A few lines down, you'll see $835,222. That's all in investments. That's all managed by the city. So anything directly donated to the library that we don't keep in our checking account that gets moved into investments, they all go into this Michigan class investments, and that's where the interest line in our income comes from. And one of the things we'll be discussing later is, do we want folks who donate directly to the library to continue donating directly into that to go into this Michigan class investments, or do we want them to donate to our fund with the Hillsdale Community Foundation, which we've looked at over time gets a much better interest rate than these Michigan class investments. So that's the basic breakdown of the important numbers on this sheet.
I, really quickly too, just
Yeah.
because I know that the numbers in those two, the checking and the investments, so from last month, the checking account number was basically 101, so it's gone down 10,000.
Donald, he did it.
Sorry about that.
Anyways, so when I was looking at that, it looks like nothing has been added to that. I did not get the time to go in and look at like the line by line, but for the investments, that number went up roughly 20,000, which I don't know what exactly that, I don't know, I just didn't get the time to look at it, because normally the investments for each month for interest is about $3,000, so I don't know, I'm not worried about it because it's more money, so, but yeah, I just wanted to let you guys know that those were the differences between the investments.
And for more context, the library board, we have totally independent funding. So all of our funding sources go directly to the library. No other city department can touch them because they're exclusively our funds. We have exclusive control over what's done with our funds. But the day-to-day management is with city finances. So sometimes we'll look at things and say, I don't actually know why that happened or where that came from, and then we have to go back to city finance and ask questions. Yeah, but we have total authority over how our funds are spent and how much is allocated in checking versus investment, et cetera.
Okay, if no comments on balance sheet, we'll move on to revenue and expenditure report. could, take a look at that one, and see, does anyone have comments or questions? Like, we're getting to the end of the fiscal year, so everything's
Yeah, the only thing
stacking up.
that I really wanted to point out is, just the fact that, for our revenues, when I was putting all of the stuff into the spreadsheet, we for sure, in a good sense, went over budget for how much we generated for subscription cards and the one right above it, just printing. Yeah, which I don't know how much we break even on printing, cause we still pay a lead, like, we still pay for the prints too. So it's not like that's just point blank, we made that much money, but, nothing else overly, to me, was jumping out, but.
And I'll just point out that if you look at the bottom line, in the budget for this year, we projected a net revenues and expenditures of $38,712. Year to date, and of course this could still change, but year to date, that's currently showing as $83,146. So fortunately, our net in the black is actually far in excess of what we budgeted for the year. And some things haven't even come through yet in our revenue lines.
That is,
Yes, true, very true. Okay, any comments on it? Anyone, one more request for comment? No? Okay, in that case, we'll go ahead and move on to communications. Do the Friends of the Library have a communication for us?
We just have the letter drive, like, people are slowly sending money in through PayPal, and we have checks that are slowly coming in. I have a couple that were handed to me, so it seems to be doing.
I for sure have one more too here.
We were looking, and already I think it's well over $200 in donations that we've gotten, and again, the stamps were donated, the paper was donated, the copies were donated, so basically it was the Friends we paid for all the materials, and then people are just sending money in, so we're hoping to help with more author visits and the wish list. We like to pick up the things that the summer reading that people don't pick up, so that's where we are right now.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
Okay, that brings us to old business. So, first item of old business is the library director evaluation. So I
have this for you.
yes, I have just the final page to sign, because that's all that gets signed, and I had asked all of you to make sure you were familiar with it. You've had it for a number of weeks now. So, that's right, I will sign here and then pass it down.
And Adam, if you'd be more comfortable not signing, considering
Right.
you just got here, there'll still be a quorum of members of the board with names on it, so it'll be fine. And then, Jemima, do you have a pen?
Oh, no, sorry.
Well, let's make sure it gets back.
Those are all our favorite pens.
Oh,
We love that.
They
type.
seem really nice.
Yes.
Okay, then we just need to pass it on to Matt.
great, okay. Right, yeah, I will do it.
I think so. I didn't do it last year.
Right, okay.
I do know, I think he's on vacation, so if you were to send it, you might not get a response. Or tomorrow, or,
Concluding remarks on that business, another excellent year.
Oh, thank you.
Right, yes,
Yeah.
indeed. Let's see here, did you, no, okay, so that brings us to the library fund investments discussion point. We talked about this just a little last week, and then, go ahead.
Well, very disappointingly, we can't, I don't think, lose the money. I'm so disappointed about that.
Shall I give Adam a little background on that?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so, just a second ago, I said, we've got most of our money tied up in these Michigan class investments. we looked at the rate of return they get on that versus the rate of return the community foundation gets. And we thought, could we take that money and move it to the community foundation? And the answer is no. Like legally, because the money now belongs to a public entity, it has to go into these particular kind of investments. So,
I don't know that we got a huge donation, like to the Michigan class. This isn't tax money, it was a couple of really big donations to that Michigan class. Did you say that? Sorry.
yeah, and because the money was donated directly to the library, it became public funds as soon as we put it in our bank account, which means it has to be invested in these particular kinds of investments.
Because there's a law about what you can and can't invest public money. It's earning like, somewhere around 4% in community foundations, and some years earn 16 to 20%. So it would be a huge benefit for the library if we could move it, but the city manager said that it would be held personally liable if we ever lost.
So
Probably.
So we're not gonna do that.
The other thing too is it also depended on how the original trust was written.
Yes.
Because that could have influenced it as well, but because they just had it written out to the library.
Yes.
But in the future, we can welcome donations to go to, directly to the Community Foundation Library Fund, just by Sharon's here, right?
And one of the matters under debate is, are we, as a policy, going to just encourage any future donors, don't give directly to the library, put that money in the community foundation fund for the library, because we can draw on that as we like, and how much we can draw, again, we'll talk to Sharon about, but it's going to get a lot better return on investment if you donate it to the foundation instead.
So, okay, is Sharon
Yeah.
ready to, okay.
Show.
Would you like to address?
So honestly, I'm really not sure what information you are looking for. Please, you don't have to swing that. My voice is good enough. Thank you so much. So just to talk a little bit about the fund at the Community Foundation, it was really set up originally back in 1998. A donor had started the fund with a gift from their trust. And so we had worked at the time to establish that, and over the years, people have continued to give to it. I think the benefit for this fund is that when people were giving to the Community Foundation, it really was to keep it with a charitable intent in mind, and we didn't have to involve the government investments or the government involvement at our local city. And so right now there is $53,452 in there. The way our funds work is the money is invested as Jaminda indicated. The government, I do know that the city of Hillsdale does have restrictions on how much they can invest in areas that they can invest in. The Community Foundation is a 70-30. We're open to full investment policies. We have an evaluation manager that's been with us for, I want to say 18 years. It's Jim out of Plymouth, Michigan. Steve Alexandrowski was a local gentleman, and then he opened his shop, and so he has local ties and understands the needs of our local community. So as Jaminda, it depends on the year. I can tell you if you're looking at your investments for the last month, we saw a big boost in investments last month, so that could be your increase. It's been a rough year so far, but last month was a positive. So our monies are invested every year. 4% of your fund balance goes back out into spendable, and that is made available. You get quarterly fund statements that come to the library, so you're always aware of what's available for you to draw down. Drawdowns can be done at any time. Rebecca gives us a call and says, I would like a distribution for this purpose. We copy and put it in our files. So the conversation is, for this board, is if you choose to do future charitable giving through the Community Foundation, you would just need to decide, are those going to be invested dollars or are those going to be liquid dollars? And by liquid dollars, that gives you available to pull out at any time. The investment would just continue to grow with the market.
And with the 4%.
With the 4%.
Are both of them also the same 4%?
Well, spendable, if you leave it in the spendable portion, it's available to you
Just,
anytime.
okay.
So here's kind of, because it's an endowed fund, the investment pool doesn't recognize how much sits in spendable and how much sits in the endowment. Because it's an endowed fund, that full amount is considered endowment. It's just on the books, you can't lose that money, but your money will continue to grow. It doesn't matter what pool you're in, whether it's a spendable account or it's the endowed account.
In that case, could I ask the question, if we're getting return on investment regardless of which kind of account it's in, what would be the disadvantage of just keeping everything 100% in a spendable account so we have access to the full amount at any time?
It wouldn't be considered an endowed fund then.
Okay,
If you were to make it full spendable, it would become a pass-through fund that
okay,
gets pulled out of investments because we have to secure that money for you.
okay.
So in this down environment where we were down 2 months ago, we were down 2%, the foundation would have to secure those funds for you. Our kind of internal rule is you have to have at least 50% of it endowed for it to be considered an endowed amount. And at any time, the board could take a look at that and encourage you. I mean, you would have to really justify why you would want an endowed fund if the majority of your funds were not endowed.
So, that makes sense.
Yes. So,
but-
you know, we want to be clear.
Right.
We're not a checking account. We are preparing for your future. So if you would like a savings account, we encourage you to walk across the street and,
Sure.
and find that. We really are for your perpetuity investments.
So you definitely recommend you keep at minimum 50% of our total funds as endowed versus liquid. But
I wouldn't recommend that. I'm not gonna say that. I'm gonna say, I
Okay,
think
you're
the
not-
majority of that must be if you were asking my opinion,
Yeah.
you really want that to be endowed.
Yes.
Your money is gonna grow by farther. I did a quick look, of that 53,000, you only received 30,000 in endowments, in actual gifts. The rest of that 23,000 came from investments, and you've been pulling out since 1998. So all of the things you've pulled out, plus your investments, still have netted you a great deal in investments. That's the beauty of the market. So if you wanna capitalize on that, I'm just saying, you do have the ability to say future gifts could be 50% endowment, 50% spendable, they could go all endowment. If you have a big project that you're looking to gain for, you could leave those spendable, knowing that you were working towards a certain project.
And, go ahead.
So all of it is invested right now?
Yes, right now you have $7,800 sitting in your spendable account.
Spendable, because that's been transferred out, that's that 4%.
That's your 4% and it's
Okay.
rollover from
So,
years
but
past.
if we were to say get like a $20,000 donation, we could make 100% of that spendable because we would still be in that 50% endowed range.
But you would probably recommend that we put as much as possible in
Right.
endowments so it's generating as much interest as we can.
Yes, okay, so,
Okay.
we could argue all day about what amount, what percent. I think it's your overall philosophy. I think we have to look at that. What is your goal? If your goal is just to find a way to grow money fast and have it liquid available to you, we are not your avenue. Our board really believes in the endowment model. And so we think that you're gonna grow over time in the investment far greater than you have that spending. But if you do have plans for a project, we are happy to work with you on that to save the money that necessarily you might need. So whatever number you pick is your appropriate amount, we're happy to work with you on that. But with the intentions, we do strongly believe in endowments.
Yeah, and philosophically, your approach is this is a long-term thing,
Yes,
and the primary job, day over day, is growing the endowment itself, and we just use a little bit of it as a time is needed.
correct.
Okay.
So, I have a few things to go both ways.
Please.
My plan, as you guys know that our doors have needed over here.
Yeah.
My plan has been, at a certain point with the carpet update, I told you guys I'm foregoing the doors.
Mhm.
My idea was to pull from that, the 4%. So I assume that our door replacement is going to cost probably that $7,000. Is that something that I can take the full 7,000, correct?
Correct.
Or, so now my question is, if that were the case, like, and sorry if this is a stupid question, but so we just have to wait another year to have the 4% spendable, correct?
You will get a new allotment, in our new fiscal year, which starts October 1st.
Okay.
And does that, is that an annual thing? Is that
It is.
4% is drawn out and put in the spendable account?
Yes.
Okay.
So our fiscal year starts in October.
Mm.
By the time we close out the books and the auditor gives us, okay, we run the calculations, and you should have a letter in your hand by December 1st. If there's a need before that, we can have our accountant run that separately.
So is what I just said a possibility then
Yes.
before October, you think? If so long as I can find somebody who will do
The
that.
amount available is available to you at any time.
Okay,
Yes.
great.
Yes.
And you might be hearing from me soon.
So, and if that's the case, then you might want to have some of your donations go to spendable to give you a better pool. So if you got a $20,000 donation, we're happy to, but looking at that variation between how much you have in spendable and how much you have in endowment really needs to have a strong conversation. And when you come to us, you have to have a justification why you're not investing in your endowment fund.
Makes
It's
sense.
not just throw it in there.
Right, it's not just a checking account, it's not just
Right.
a saving account. If you're putting something in there, the expectation is you are growing the endowment for the long term, you're not just, it's not just a bank account. That makes
Yes.
sense to me. I would say with our finances where we are, with the considerable amount we already have available to us through our regular fund, thanks in no small part, once again, to the incredible gift of Mr. Ganesh. I think it would be I think we should take very seriously the idea that future donations can go to growing the community foundation endowment, because we have operating funds sitting in our general fund for the foreseeable future, both based on how healthy our finances are right now in terms of our regular credits and debits, how healthy the large amount sitting in our regular investments and checking account is. I would recommend we make it a policy that anything we can, if it can be written to the foundation to grow that endowment, we redirect things that way. That's just a thought.
And Sharon, if we do that, can we make a standing percentage? I just feel uncomfortable, like George, I think what you're saying is, am I hearing you, that we have so much we could use readily for any project we need, that we don't have to worry about the percentage at the community foundation, we could just put.
What percentage is available as
Just
spendable?
put it in endowment, because we have plenty of spendable mission class.
I think for now, because we've got 50,000 something in the endowment with the community foundation. We have almost $1 million in our, just in our general fund and investments. So until, I'd say with that extraordinary gap, I would say that, yeah, let's prioritize growing the endowment for now until and unless there's some extraordinary expense we think we need ready money for.
That makes sense, yeah, that makes sense, yeah.
Well, any other questions for Sharon?
I think that's it for me.
Thank you.
Yeah, I
Thank you.
definitely appreciate it.
My only question is, do we have to, like, with what was just decided, or is there any sort of thing that we need to switch with you, or is there any, or we're set with what we're at still? And just me saying, hey, or, yeah, when somebody comes to me, I can say, hey, if you have a larger donation, send it that way. Correct? That's all.
So,
I'm
yeah,
saying.
so let's say theoretically, somebody walks in and they have a check in their hand for the Hillsdale Community Library. Now, we can't redirect them to you, and they can't hand you that check, because it says Community Library, not Community Foundation, correct?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, to me,
Right.
Are you recording?
I would say that somebody would come in and say, I have $1,000, I can say, you can either write that check to us, or you can write that check to the foundation.
To grow our endowment.
Yeah.
Grow our endowment. And-
That's what's the outcome of this conversation,
Right.
correct? Okay.
Right.
I just didn't know
Yeah.
if we needed to have some sort
So,
of change. with
I would
that.
say if a check lands in our mailbox and it says $1,000 for the community library, if it says community library, not community foundation, we have to put that in our bank account.
Yeah.
We can't just walk over and hand it to Sharon.
Mhm.
If somebody comes to us and says, I would like to make a donation, then we explain, that's great, we're so grateful. Right now, the best thing you can do is grow our grow our foundation fund.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that's the takeaway.
And I do think that we have worked, the beauty of a small town is our local bank works with us really well. So checks can get written to a lot of different things, and they're very honoring if it's intended. So you can also sign over checks. People have said, we don't need this money, we want it to go in our endowment. The
Okay,
library could sign over the check to the foundation, payable to the foundation,
great.
and the foundation can put that into the fund. And so there are different things we can do. We can contact your donor, you can contact them and say, would it be okay if we pass this along? I mean, I think there's a lot of different things you could do if you chose to do that.
Okay.
But basically, they just, if we had a donation like tab, which we don't, we don't.
We don't, but on our website, it's called giving, and so it's like,
Oh, there.
yeah, and so I actually already went on there and kind of started writing something up, because I don't think, I actually don't think it's wrong for me to already be doing that,
No.
really,
No.
so,
No.
yeah.
So they just make checks to the community foundation, and then the memo line is like attention library fund, or how does that?
Yes.
Yeah, that's
If they don't have one of our contribution envelopes, a lot of times they just put that in there. They put a sticky note on top. They wrap a piece of paper that says this fund. We get them all kinds.
Great, okay, so maybe we just need to, like, be sure we're phrasing that giving page to really encourage.
I've been doing a lot of stuff with our,
And with the statement of intent on the part of the board, I mean, I'm not even sure we need to like have a vote on this, since we're all clear, we're not changing any written policy. It's just, I think we're just, the group's sentiment is that, yes, let's encourage that going forward, and I think the director agrees.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was gonna say, it's unfortunate, because I just had, like, I told you about it last month, we just had a donation, so, but.
It's all right.
Okay. Well, excellent, thank you, Sharon.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you for
Thank
being
you
here.
very much for taking the time.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, now, we still had a couple of things to discuss on letter C, discussion of changing the annual report timeline. Go ahead, George.
Okay, so, the director has requested that we change how and when we do the annual report, because, Adam, background, congratulations, today's your onboarding day.
Yeah.
So historically, we've done multiple things at our annual meeting, which is in April. So April is the annual meeting where we take care of things, items of business like adopting the budget for the coming fiscal year, and one of these is, adopting the annual report. So it's part of the legal requirements of the library at the state level that we send an annual report to the city council. So Rebecca just had her annual report, stood up at the city council, answered questions, presented it. The awkward thing is because we adopted in April and our fiscal year ends in June, she's always reporting the last complete fiscal year, which is always like almost an entire year ago.
Yeah, so it's like kind of,
So it's very old news by the time it gets to council, the way we've been doing it.
like, and so for context too, like, a part of the reason that, like, Jack knows the number is because he asked for, a couple of months ago, asked for he asked for the annual report, and I said, well, I have one that is from 22, 23,
Right.
and so I said, the numbers are actually, like, I'm not saying that the numbers have jumped by any large number, but it's outdated, like when he's talking about certain things, like, I'm not saying, you know, that is just wrong, but like, it just is unfortunate, it's just old information at this point, so yeah.
So, yeah, we're trying to make that discuss how that can be a bit more fresh to the public, so.
And I agree to go away and look at the bylaws and the policies and say, okay, how do we rewrite this so that we can change the reporting timeline? So we have a couple of options. One is we adopt the annual report immediately after the end of the fiscal year, and then you give the annual report, and then you present it maybe in August. Or we go to making the annual report line up with the calendar year, in which case it's gonna split the fiscal year in half. What are the advantages of reporting on the calendar year?
I remember when Laura and I talked about it, it was mostly just because of the fact of the summer reading program.
It doesn't split.
Yeah, and so it just makes everything a little bit like, again, that is also in part because of the library commission, their fiscal year is also the same as our fiscal year. And there's many different fiscal years that everybody can choose from. So realistically, like, I don't know how I feel the most about the January to December, because it would be really helpful for me, but like, I don't wanna make the decision just because of me, like, I think maybe a different option.
Well, it occurs to me that if we wrap up summer reading, what's the date we're wrapping up summer reading this year?
The last day, there are people walking down, I don't know why.
The paper had the other meeting listed here.
Yes, yes, so the paper had the road diet meeting
Okay.
listed as in the library. They changed the location. They changed the location on the city website, but I'll bet a lot of people are gonna.
Write something up and
I was gonna say, can you put a,
note on the door?
Yeah.
Yeah, feel free, and it's at, what is that, at City Hall?
It's,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, you can just take this if you want.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll write it.
Okay.
Can I get to an office to get paid?
Well, actually, hold on, let me do something.
Sorry.
No, no,
No
no,
problem.
no.
Stand by.
I know it's not a back and forth, but the door on my house cost me 8,000 and change.
Yeah.
So I just wanna throw that out. We have double doors that are nowhere near the size of your doors. And, I mean, George, you walk by them all the time, they're not that fancy, and they were like $8,500. So, just giving a heads up to know, like, ahead of time that you might wanna, like, use find a way to, like, endow or.
And we can pull the 7,000 from the community foundation funds to use to boost that, but yeah, we might need to make up the difference from other funds.
Yeah, just wanted to give a heads up from that. And we spent like a year going between all different places to see if it would, like, if we could find cheaper, because when we're like, oh, we need a new door in our house, that never really, the cost of a bathroom never really crossed our minds, like, you know?
Exterior, yeah. And the director has spent the last year, at least, trying to get a construction company, any construction company, any handyman, to like, give us the time of day to get the work done. And we've had a couple of people come in, but I don't think we've not been able to secure a bid on the actual job.
We had that problem as well, and we went through Pella. Is it, I think it's called Pella, not Pelham, it's Pella. Those were the only people that we ended, like I said, there were plenty of people that came out, quoted us, didn't show back up the next time.
Or were we talking about doors?
Yes.
But, so, we all set, we got a sign?
Yeah, we're good, we're good.
So,
I don't, what were we saying?
my question was, what's the date of the end of summer reading this year, for example?
So, the end of summer reading technically, yeah, it's July 23rd, but then we're having like a end of summer celebration, July 29th.
So it strikes me, if summer reading is wrapped up by the end of July.
Always by the end of July.
Always by the end of July, then maybe in August, we could adopt an annual report of the previous fiscal year. An annual report of the previous fiscal year that covers, here's what the finances for the previous fiscal year, circulation, programming, but specifies, and here's the figures for the latest for the latest summer reading. And yes, that spills over to the next fiscal year, but as long as that's clear in the report, I think that's fine.
Yeah, and I think we kinda talked about this too, is if we just, when we were talking about doing a report in August, or, August. So I'm okay with changing that. My only question is that goes back to the annual meeting, like, how does that figure into that?
So, that's what I looked into. So I had another look at our bylaws. The only thing specified in the law is that we have to give the council an annual report.
Yeah.
It doesn't say when it's adopted, it doesn't say it has to be at your annual meeting,
Okay.
it doesn't say anything like that in the law itself, last time I checked. In our bylaws, the annual report is mentioned 3 times. One is under our powers and duties, it just says one of them is to present an annual report to the mayor and council. And then the next place it pops up is under Article 5 under meetings. It lists the things that happen at the annual meeting, including hold officer elections, determine the schedule of meetings, approve the budget for the coming fiscal year, and approve the annual report. So it's one line under meetings. And then under the duties and authority of the director, it says towards the end of the duties and authority, submission to the board, a written annual report of the library, including financial statements. So the only place in our bylaws it specifies the adoption of the report happens at the annual meeting is one place under Article 5. So I think if we want to adjust the timing on the report, the simplest thing is to simply strike that line from the bylaws, 5.1.d, strike that line from the bylaws, leave in the requirement to give an annual report, but leave open the timing of it and when it's adopted. Because the only thing requiring that we adopt it at the annual meeting is our own bylaws.
Okay.
So any change to the bylaws, we would need to publish ahead of a meeting, according to the rules we came up with a couple years ago. So I'm not gonna make a motion to make any change today, but I'd say maybe next month.
I was gonna say, it sounds like we could just say an annual report to adopt following the previous fiscal year, like
Yeah.
so that way it's kind of indicative of the fact that like it's gonna come soon after.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
So I wanted to just
Okay.
brief everybody on, I think the simplest thing to change is just to strike this line under meetings, leave in the requirement to give an annual report, leave open when we can do it, and then just do it whenever we think best. And as long as the city council continues to receive an annual report, we're
Yeah.
fulfilling our legal obligations.
Okay, so my question
Yeah.
is, when it comes to this year, what are we, yes,
Well, we could always go back to the city council in, we could adopt a new report in August, go back to the city council, explain, hey folks, we changed how we do this, here's what we changed and why. So you're hearing a second annual report from us this year,
okay,
covering this span of time.
okay, that, I assume that would be the case, I have no problem
Because
doing
that way they get a report that captures this year's summer meeting.
Yeah.
Right, yeah,
So, I think if we introduce the bylaws change in July, and then approve the new annual report in August, it can go up to city council.
okay, that sounds good to me, yeah,
Okay.
that's good.
Great, that sounds like a great idea. Good, okay, any other comments on the annual report?
Could you just repeat again one more time, you're going to, do the report in August, is that what you're saying?
Right, we'll adopt the
Yeah.
report, at the August meeting.
Well, maybe early on, if she can, if that
Well,
gives
no,
Rebecca enough time.
It's the second Thursday,
Yeah, well,
is there enough time?
Well, I was gonna say, it's occurring to me, our fiscal year ends in June, so it is a month and a half time.
Okay.
So
it's
yeah,
set
if
for
it's in
December
August, like,
Yeah.
yeah, if it was July, I would feel a little bit like yeesh, but
Right.
August I feel a little bit okay with.
And you feel like you'll have had a couple of weeks to coalesce the numbers around the summer reading and
Yeah.
create a report on it?
Yeah, all that good stuff, yeah, I feel like I would be comfortable with August, but if you guys want July.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
I would also, I think that sounds good.
Okay.
August meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we would adopt it at the August meeting, and then at the subsequent city council meeting, the president and the director would go before the council and submit the report, and as under communications, I think.
Okay,
Yeah.
Okay.
all right, great. So that brings us to old business D, and we will be hearing an update from the subcommittee on this idea of the, for lack of a better word, children's librarian position. That's what we threw out last time. It looks like even the title of the proposed title has even been changed because of subcommittee discussion. So, would you start by giving a brief explanation, George, of how this came about in the first place?
Yes.
I know you did last time, but if you could just.
Yeah, so,
reiterate.
to recap, and for Adam's benefit, it's been a few years since the library has had an officially designated children's librarian after the resignation of the previous children's librarian. After a few years of stability, financial growth, things looking good, it occurred to me we could have a second librarian in the building. I think our collections, patronage, finances would all support the existence of an official second librarian. So I thought, do we revive the position of children's librarian? So I brought that to the board for consideration, for talking about at our last meeting. We formed a subcommittee to consider the question. Now we do have a staff member who's been doing an excellent job with collection development, programming, all that stuff. So the question is, how does this idea mesh with the existence of a staff member whose title isn't children's librarian, whose title is programming coordinator, but who is doing many of the duties of the previous children's librarian? And so one of the things the subcommittee wanted to hash out is who does what. What duties does the current staff member retain? What duties migrate to the new position? The director and Jaminda and I were the subcommittee to talk about what this new position, what it would even be called, what its duties would entail. And so to break it down a little bit, we settled on junior services librarian, in part because this is a position that would focus on, among other things, the collection development of the juvenile and adult collections, but would also include other technical services like repairing damaged books and other materials, and also dealing with cataloging issues. So one of the things the director brought up is, if I've got another librarian available to me, we've got cataloging issues, recurrent frequent cataloging issues that I think so I would really like to be able to task somebody with. And when it comes to how does this mesh with the person currently doing the job, we did talk about it and determined that the current staff member, Heidi, has done such an excellent job with the children's programming, continues to do a fantastic job with the children's programming, and it's really clear that it's kind of her favorite part of the job. You know, it's what she really loves doing, and we said she's got to keep that. So the programming coordinator is going to continue to be lead on children's programming. And then this librarian position, and we did say, regardless of the other outcomes, we want this to be a librarian. We're looking for another credentialed professional in the building. We think we can grow in that, we're ready to grow in that way. So their focus would be on collection development, book repair, cataloging issues, and to suggest or refine youth policies, work processes, cataloging practices, kind of the technical end of the librarianship, and then assist with outreach, youth programming. So this is somebody who could help Heidi with things, but Heidi would still be lead on designing and running juvenile programming, and then as everybody in the building does, assist with circulation desk and other regular circulation procedures. Does that sum it up? Okay. So I think that's where we're at. We were waffling a bit on what would be the exact title of this position, how much time would they need, what would be a fair wage to fix for this, especially considering it's a part-time position, but we're hopefully going to pick up somebody with a master's in the field. So it's an interesting niche to fill, but I think that's where we're at. Jaminda, anything to
I
add?
just wanna say I'm just thrilled to have some support for Rebecca, another, credentialed librarian building is great. Also, I think just having more staff focused on our children in the community, I'm not sure how that could be bad, so I think that's great. And the fact that Heidi's job won't change and, she will get support also, just seems like a win-win all around, so super happy about it.
Rebecca, anything else there?
I was gonna say, the biggest thing which I had mentioned to them too the other day is, what I would really look forward in this person, as I was telling you guys, them too, is that, we recently started going to the schools to do story times, so outreach with them. And Heidi and I both really love doing it, and we both really wanna do it more, but it becomes a lot when you factor in just one school in every, so, stuff like that, I mean, everything else too, but, yeah, I don't have too much to add. Like I was telling them on Tuesday, a lot of stuff with our catalog, we migrated when we came over from the Mitchell building, and then when they updated to the current, system that we use, I think there's been a lot of things that I've come across it, I don't know that it bothers my staff, but for me, like, it bothers me because I know about the efficiency of everything, so I want people to not be like standing there waiting with their 2 kids when one's, like, just trying, so it would be beneficial because it's not something that like you can't just run a report on this program and say, all right, these are all the problems we need, to fix, but it's almost sometimes kind of almost like not spot checking, but similar to spot checking, I guess. So yeah, I mean, and I have said this before, I know like my preference on doing things is always cataloging and taking care of the new stuff. That's generally what most people are, I don't wanna say generally, most people are here for, but I mean, we just spent a lot of money on something, so of course I, wanna get it out and ready for people, which, I mean, I feel like I've gotten to the point where I have my routine and everything, like, that's a good, like, we're in a good part with all of that, but then what happens is I have about 2.5 carts worth of books that need attention of some sort that it needs something, it could be something so little, and I just don't have the time to do something that'll take me 5 minutes, or I don't have the time that'll take me to do something that'll take me an hour sometimes, so, like, that is the case sometimes, so, yeah, that's all I really have.
Yeah, and given the refocus of this position on kind of the back end things, cataloging, acquisitions, book repair, systems issues, the title Rebecca brought to the table is maybe we call this technical services librarian. Technical services librarian, it's pretty standard in the field. But we talked about it a bit, and I was wondering, I proposed junior services librarian because part of the job description is we're going to be involving this person with children's programming. They'll be helping Heidi out with things. They'll potentially be doing these school visits as well, and I thought maybe that should be reflected in the title of the position. So that was my suggestion, but I was open with and happy to either. And anything else the board wishes to suggest.
I personally was in support of junior services. I liked the way that it combined the focus on the youth, section of the library and the support for Rebecca with technical issues.
So that being said, the question is, what are the subcommittees and the board's next steps? Unless, Laura, did you have anything?
Well, I would like to say that I am, some people know that I used to work at the library. I was the children's librarian, about 10 years ago. And I really love the library. I have a master's degree in library science. This frankly interests me in the idea of coming back to the library. That said, I don't think I should engage in discussion or votes, right? It's just a pretty clear conflict of interest. So I'm going to recuse myself from that discussion.
I guess so George, we talked about just making sure to have both positions duties written, and Rebecca's working on that.
Yeah,
And so then maybe what needs to happen is at the next meeting, we would just have both of those together, because I think we're very interested in writing about how the, positions coordinate with each other, and then we would just be voting next time, maybe the goal to vote next time on publishing the job.
And Rebecca, you talked about the timing of this, you prefer not to post this and run the search until
Yeah,
after summer.
I mean, at this point, yeah, I mean, it's not like we would be hiring anybody, but yeah, I am not interested in doing anything until after the fact, just because having somebody, yeah,
When does
like,
summer meeting end again?
the end of July, so like,
So that would be good, so if we voted next month, we could post it in August, and then.
yeah.
Okay.
Great.
All right, well, I have nothing further there, okay. Anything from you, Adam?
Would the junior services librarian be more help to you over summer reading, or?
I mean, not, at this point, not necessarily, because we have to catch them up to speed, and it's sort of something, like, in theory, yes, but it's more so, like, if we were to hire somebody, it's kind of, and I don't wanna say Laura aside, but let's just say I don't know who it is, there are things where it's like, it's kind of like, it won't be helpful, because I'll still have to be up there helping them or explaining something, whereas, like, if I could have hired them a couple of months ago, or like, it's just, I don't want to have to be training somebody. Like last year, we had 2 new people during the summertime, and so, like the one, she still works here, the other one, she was a temporary hire, and don't get me wrong, it was phenomenal, they were both really good at their job, but it's like, upon reflection, it is like, there might be 4 of us in this building, but it really isn't like there's 4 of us in this building. I'm still being tapped for something, which is fine, but if, if the point was to help me or help Heidi, yeah.
Training would take a.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not like, it's rocket science to understand, what we're doing here, but the bigger thing is there's a lot of really niche things that tend to happen that don't happen often because they're so niche, and so it ends up being something where it's like, something will happen and they'll have a question, and it, like a patron comes in, something comes up, they have to come ask me a question, and then because it's something that I wouldn't think to train somebody, like it's not, and then it's kind of, it becomes this whole like 20-minute, like, well, this is what you would do, or, a conversation, and so that's, yeah.
Well, I suppose since our chair has had to recuse herself from the discussion, I'll ask if there's anything further on this item.
Well, I mean, maybe this is not the time, I don't really know. Would Lauren need to be trained if she's a temp? Like, I don't know how this works, the hiring process. Can you hire a temp, say, you're on contract for 6 weeks, and it's gonna expire, we're gonna publish it out to wider community search and all that stuff. But I didn't know how much you need to know. And I don't know if Lauren would need to be trained or not.
See, I was gonna say, I don't know on the like hiring end of, like with the city, I don't know if that's something that.
Oh, no,
That's the only thing of that I could outright say at this time, but,
And as far as I'm aware, there's no urgency in filling this position. Like we were operating just fine. Like, there's no-
it's not urgent.
Yeah, so this isn't like, oh my gosh, they need to plug a gap. This
Yeah.
is kind of a longer term growth idea.
Okay.
yeah, technically you could say we are down a person because we did have somebody extra last year, but I mean, like we're fine, it's not like we're like in desperate need, have help wanted signs, so, yeah.
Okay, good.
All right. Anything further, Jaminda or Adam? Anything further, Rebecca? All right, so I'll just wrap up by saying the subcommittee can continue to discuss the idea with the director. I think we could come up with something final to post post next month, and then the subcommittee and the director would move on to discuss hiring question. The hiring question has apparently become more delicate since there is a board member interested in the position, so, we should, the subcommittee should also, discuss how that is best handled. And then we'll come back together about this in July. Okay. All right, so Laura, I will turn it back over to you.
Let's move on to new business. In that case, the township contract, Rebecca has.
So, yes, first thing first, we have received payment from Jefferson Township, so Laura is signing that contract, just to seal our deal with them. We do not have a payment from Hillsdale Township. They actually are requesting a meeting to discuss. So I don't know, I know that whenever it originally happened, I know that Josh was originally a part of that. So I don't know, but yes, Hillsdale Township would like to meet with us. As it has been said to me, they don't feel they get enough bang for their buck. So I will also, I don't wanna get into I don't wanna get into the weeds too much, but like I do have some information from our cooperative director as well, just with information and numbers, I guess. The equation, like that Jack had been saying earlier. So,
Is there just an equation?
so I don't think there is the perfect equation. The more I was thinking about it and talking with the cooperative director, let me rephrase that. Yes, it has to do with the per capita and the residents, and it can't be, it has to, as I was telling Jack the other day too, it has to be equal with how much our city residents also contribute via their property taxes. So the township residents, they still pay property taxes too, but we just contract with the township and they just pay us the flat rate amount. So the amount, as I understand it, the 8,800 was at some point set by previous boards.
Yeah,
you
and
know.
it hasn't changed for
Neither of the numbers have changed.
decades. Yeah.
Yeah, and so, yeah, they want to have the discussion about it and what could be done. I have spoken with, her name is Jackie with the township. I mean, I know that there are certain legalities to it, like they have to belong to a library, the township has to contract somewhere with a library. Also, the municipality fines, those are actually, the penal fines, those have to come to the library. You would have to change Michigan's law to make that.
Yeah, they have to go to a library.
Has to happen,
Yeah.
So, yeah, I had said to her, she wanted to have a sit-down meeting at some point, so Josh not being here, because I don't know if he would still be interested in doing that, just because I thought it was him who brought it up last year, but maybe not. But yeah, if there were.
Could that be a subcommittee meeting?
It could, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, and so I essentially, I had said to her, I will get back with you about when and.
When did they contact you?
Well, I mean, Jack has been talking to me about it for a little bit. She had first reached out to me 2 weeks ago, maybe? I know that I emailed Laura about it last.
Agenda, so that was last week.
Yeah, we also had a phone call earlier this week too, that was us trying to like, hey, when could we meet and all
And
that.
what position does this person have with the township?
She's a supervisor.
She's the township supervisor.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So should we name a subcommittee now to deal with this?
I think so, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, and they have not paid their thing yet, so
Right.
I mean, she was saying, I would think you guys would want to have urgency with this meeting so you guys could get paid or we.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I propose that myself and Josh form a subcommittee with Rebecca.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay,
I'm sure Josh won't object.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great.
Would you happen, like, with summer, do you have availability?
Yeah.
Pretty open, okay.
Some days, I can send you my
Okay, that'd be great.
screenshots of time.
That'll be great. Okay.
But I have a lot of, like, most afternoons for people.
Okay.
for this, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Great, okay, so concluding that item of business, that brings us back to general visitor comments. Does anyone have, again, 3 minutes, and if anyone has a comment? Go ahead.
Hi, I just solved the
Can you
math
say your
on,
name?
oh, Tara Scott. I just solved the math on this real quick. They have 2,133 people, they're paying 8,800. It's $4.13 they're paying for a library card per person. Like, that's a steal. So I don't know why this is a continuous discussion and we're always trying to figure out the math. It seems to me like we need like somebody like Ms. Fleischer on the board. And since there looks to be like a position open soon, may I suggest somebody who is in finance and a Hillsdale resident, Dan LaRue. I'm gonna say it for the millionth time, he's a finance person, he deserves to be on the board. The rules got changed just because he's a Democrat, and he should be on this board. Second of all, I'm really concerned with this junior services librarian because they're dealing with the collection of junior and children's sections. I mean, we know the history of the board and what their intentions are with the junior and children's intentions. So I really hope Rebecca still has final say on the curation of the books in this library because that's the way it should be. And I'm pretty sure that's how it's written already currently. And lastly, this whole thing just seems super fishy. All of a sudden, we need a children's library. We're gonna slip somebody into that spot. Already offering her the job right here. Like this is shady. This is not transparent, and there's been discussions behind the scenes, and I am really concerned. And I understand you want this perfect board, but there's members who are in this community that are not homeschool parents that are involved in public education, and we want our voices heard on this board. In fact, I went to a school board meeting, it was so efficient, it was 45 minutes. They got through these subcommittees, it was so quick, not an hour and a half like this one. And it was a school board meeting, and you know who's on the school board meeting? Dan LaRue. I think he could be a good asset since there's going to be an open position.
Thanks, Tara, any further comments?
I do have one, it's Brianna Croft. It did just seem really weird that it was like, yeah, but Laura, if it's Laura, we don't have to train her. It just seems fishy. Like, it just gives like a weird, it just gives a weird, like, if I think of a board that I'm sitting on and then I just look over at someone at the board and I'm like, and when you're, Laura, this is nothing against you because I know that you were a children's librarian here and I know you did a really nice job in the past. It's nothing against you, it just reads not so great. When, like I said, a month ago, the person doing the children's services had no idea, and now this month it's like, well, you can get somebody to come help you with your summer reading because if it's Laura, she doesn't need to be trained. It just makes it seem like that there are things that are going on outside of this meeting in this room and discussions happening with you guys personally that aren't on a record. And I just, for full transparency, it just doesn't look great. So I say that with respect, but.
Penny Swan, I'll reiterate what they had said. When Laura, I don't know you, there was talk when you were appointed that you wanted this children's position. So it's not been any secret whether that is true or not, but clearly now you are interested in it. You can't be on the board, and I guess you know that. I'm thinking we just need to change the name to the library to Hillsdale College Annex Library because the citizens don't have a say anymore. Not one of you were born and raised here. Dan LaRue was born and raised here. Brianna was born and raised here. The library is not the community library anymore. It's the Hillsdale College Library. Thank you.
Any further comments?
My name is Rod Ziegel, and just to add another layer, and nothing against anybody here, but I personally did the school board representative to the library board, and I was on the board in the 90s when we got the ball rolling to move over to this car dealership that was up for sale. We're sitting in the room where the body shop used to paint the cars when they got finished fixing the fenders. That position I felt was very important because I felt like I was an ambassador between the school and the library, public library, that had parallel interests. And it was good I tried to report what back and forth between the two boards I was on at the time. Fortunately, I changed careers and I couldn't run again because my career involved some travel. It was hard to be in Grand Rapids when I had a workshop meeting in an hour and a half. I just couldn't do that. But I really think that the city council did away with that position for some reason. I never figured it out. I heard lots of rumors, but I do kind of marginally know Dan LaRue. I know he wanted the position. He's tried twice. He's been turned down. He has children in the community he's raising. He was raised here. But why he was never given a fair shake at this, he's sitting up there where you guys are. I can get real angry if I really let myself, but just food for thought, please. Please rethink that. Those of you who might have some influence on city council should get them to rescind that decision, or maybe the library, maybe the school board should fight for that position back. I don't know. I haven't finished yet. Thank you.
Okay, any further visitor comments? Okay, seeing none, I'll move on to board comments. Any board member comments?
Adam, do you wanna introduce yourself?
Yes, hello, I'm Adam here. I should clarify, I didn't know if it was urgent or not. I'm
Yes.
sorry.
Oh.
But if it's not urgent, good to know.
Anything else? Cool.
I moved into the area a few years back. I'm helping out at a local co-op here. I was a teacher for 15 years. I still teach. A student at the college. What else I do?
What's your professional background? What did you do before coming here?
I taught elementary school and high school, public schools in Arizona. Elementary school and high school. Latin, Greek, literature, projects, teaching languages and literature. So.
Any other board comments?
I just would like to say that, I just feel really sad when, the fact that I wasn't born here in Hillsdale, like somehow makes me different. That makes me sad. I feel like I love Hillsdale so much, and we've been here for like 16 years, and I feel like my kids were born here, and, maybe that should count if your kids are born here, but you weren't. I don't know, like that would be a nice thing to be given credit for. But, I feel really I feel just so, in love with our community, and I love the library, and so I guess I just would ask, just for some trust and good intentions. I mean, I think I, am really open with my intention just to be excited for more support for our kids in our community here at the library, just having another librarian and more like services for them and more programs for them. I just think that I don't see, I think that this should just be a great thing that's celebrated. So that's what I'm hoping people can trust good intentions, and I'm really excited about it. And we're working really closely with Rebecca. I mean, there's no backdoor meetings going on. We have a subcommittee. It's that's the
subcommittee meets and we talk and then it's great. I mean, it's the way that it should work, so I don't feel, if anybody would like to talk to me privately, I emailed a little bit with Kara about it. I'm super happy to talk more about it, and I feel like the intentions are really good. So we all want more for the library, more for the kids. We want people to feel welcome here. We want the library to be successful. Everybody wants that, so.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jaminda. All right, well, if there are no other board comments, I'll just state that, the next meeting is Thursday, June 12th, same time, same place.
That's today.
Oh, I'm.
Okay.
I just noticed that.
Yeah.
I think it's in July. Maybe, I'm not sure.
Yeah, so second Thursday in July. Second Thursday in July is the 10th.
Okay.
July 10th, right?
Okay, next meeting, July 10th. And we are now adjourned at.
I think you have to call for an adjournment.
Oh, I would like to call for the adjournment.
All right, so moved.
Seconded, all in favor?
Aye.